Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Half Hour. And I am so excited to bring you today's guest, Aria Johnson. She's a keynote speaker also. But one of the reasons I'm so excited to bring her to you guys is because she is crushing it and also taking care of herself in the process, which is totally my cup of tea. I love these conversations. And she is doing that because she has learned some valuable lessons that she is going to share with us. So, Aria, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so nice to finally meet you in person. And I know your audience is such a group of successful and empowered and powerful people that I'm just really excited to get to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I'm saying this to the audience, but also to you. So, as we were prepping, we found very quickly that we had a lot in common. But one of the things is where I want to start is you have a pretty big profile now. You're a musician, influencer, keynote speaker, which shout out to my corporate people. If you need speakers, pay attention to this episode to see if she matches the vibe that you need because she's available. Through your journey of becoming so accomplished, you also had some downfalls. You ended up in the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
So, can we start by talking about what did you have to go through to become the version of yourself that you are today?
Absolutely. And I think this will relate to a lot of you out there who are also at the top of your game or trying to be at the top of your game, what it takes to get there, and sometimes the pitfalls of getting there. And
Yep.
I'm hoping that by this conversation today, my intention is that some of you will not have to hit rock bottom, will not have to get sick, will learn the techniques and implement them today, right now, change your life so that you don't have to hit the bottom, because not everyone has to go there, but everyone will go there if they don't take care of themselves.
Amen.
So, first of all, I started out in the music business ever since I was 5. I knew I wanted to be a singer. I ended up opening for Ludacris, touring, performing for 17,000 people on stages around the world. I got to
Incredible.
live my dream in that way. And then I just got sick of it. I was over it. I was done with the hustle and the fighting, and I was an indie artist, so I didn't have the backing of a major label, and I did put out an album and I did well, but I was so sick of the hustle that basically when you turn your joy into a job, sometimes you lose the joy for it. And
Sure.
so
I
when I
understand
did
that.
that, when I did that, I decided to transition into television, and I ended up being the music expert on a TV show called Beverly Hills Pawn for 5 seasons. That was my show. And I got to entertain in a different way. And while I was at that transition between music and television, I developed a company called The Golden Voice to help kids in the music business make it without having to go through what I had to go through. So I was doing that business. I was also on television. I was in the trailer taking Zoom calls with like Disney kids and people signed to Sony and helping them with their career, consulting. I mean, I was always just performing at such a high level and just burning both candles, burning the candle at
Yes.
both ends. Always. That's just how I've lived my life, on adrenaline. Like, if you told me tomorrow, let's go jump out of a plane, I'd be like, that sounds amazing. Let me check my schedule. Maybe
Yeah.
in
That
between
sounds
clients, we
fun.
could do
Okay.
that. But I've had to learn that I can't live at that high of a level without self-care, because what happened was I was at the top of my game. We were about to do season 6 and 7 of Beverly Hills Pawn, and I had just had a baby, trying to be super mom, the Pinterest
Oh,
birthday
yeah.
parties, trying to do it all, and running my business. At this point, my TV show was sort of on hold, waiting for season 6 and 7. I was taking like ridiculous amounts of clients because I was making a lot of money and feeling
Yeah.
powerful, like, oh, see, I could be a mama and do it all, right? Like, I don't have to like
You're like, I
stay at
got
home.
this.
I thought, yeah, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I couldn't figure out why I was struggling with, like, I wanted to want to be a stay-at-home mom, but I had this drive inside. And I'm just now
Right.
learning maybe it's an addiction to drama, maybe it's an addiction to anxiety and adrenaline, and maybe that's what makes us successful, is that drive, because that comes from not enoughness. So here I was trying to do it all. I'd be like hearing my baby cry or like laugh with the nanny downstairs while I'm on Zoom calls upstairs in my studio, and I'd be at work wishing I was with her, and I'd be with her wishing I was at work, and I
Yes.
just had these conflicting ideas in my head that I had to do it all, be it all, look a certain way after having the baby, got to go to the gym, got to do all of these things. And then one day I just ended up in the ER. No
Yes.
warning signs, nothing. I mean, I guess I had some anxiety, so that was probably a warning sign, but really I collapsed. I ended up in the
Yeah.
ER. The doctors had no idea what was wrong with me. And they were like, oh, it's reflux. So they prescribed me some like acid blockers. And I proceeded to be sick and see dozens of doctors over a period of 5 years. And in that 5 years, I had to figure out, wait a minute, what I'm doing is not working for me anymore. Like all of you guys out there, you can perform at the highest level. You could be making $500,000 a year, $1 million a year. I'm sure some of you are making, but are you happy? Like, how much anxiety do you have? Are you like not
Right.
sleeping at night? And that's the kind of stuff I was going through. Those are the warning signs, but I didn't know what they were. And when I crashed and burned. And then from there on, it was a slew of doctors, misdiagnoses, diagnosis. I have a laundry list of diagnoses of what went wrong. And at one point, it was so bad. I was so sick. My throat was bleeding. I was literally coughing up blood in the
Wow.
hospital. I had to quit with all of my clients, my music clients. And this was like, my dream was to help them live their dream at the time. And so I'm like, I can't work. I felt like a crap mom because I had to save all my energy to be there for my daughter. I end up in the hospital and they gave me like more meds. So I just said, okay, I'll take Valium 3 times a day so I can swallow my food, just to swallow, because I felt like I was having a heart attack. It's called
Wow.
hypercontractile esophagus. It was squeezing every time I would eat. And the combination of things, I was on Valium. They put me on antidepressants. They're like, oh, you're depressed. And I'm like, you think? You'd be depressed too if you lost everything. I lost my body because I couldn't work out. I had full pain head to toe, every joint, every muscle. The hairs
Wow,
on my
Aria.
head hurt. Yeah, I mean, you've been through it too, right?
Yeah.
I wanted
Yeah.
to die at one point. And
Yeah.
that's,
I mean, I remember when I was at my low too, very similarly, I was diagnosed by the time I collapsed. I was diagnosed with two anxiety disorders, chronic stress. I was seeing all the like, so everything you're saying, I'm relating to. I saw so many doctors. Everybody is just like, oh, you're just stressed or like
yeah,
you're fine until
yeah,
I wasn't fine. And by the time I collapsed, what they didn't know because it required different testing is that I had the chronic stress and I had breast implants too. So the chronic stress, along with breast implants, gave me breast implant illness. It triggered autoimmune disease. My hair was falling out in circular clumps. And I was sick, like how you're saying, like my bones hurt, like just to get out of bed hurt. Meanwhile, on the outside, I'm still showing up as this like high
yep,
performance salesperson. And I'm like, something's got to give. I've got 4 kids at home. By the time, again, I fell, by the time I collapsed, my relationships were disconnected with my kids. Not that we don't love each other and stuff. It's just, I didn't have presence,
yeah,
right?
yep,
The same thing in my marriage. So, quite honestly, my life was a shit show. And it did take me having to pause and recalibrate and make really tough decisions to get it back on track. So, I love that you're talking about not only what happened, but that you had to start basically giving yourself your own CPR.
yeah. That's exactly what it was. I always put everyone else first. I put my clients first. I'd take calls at all hours of the night. It's like, I mean, we're talking about like people who are on tour and that they're like famous. So you take their calls. No, actually, you don't. You can call them back during waking hours. I don't care if you're in Japan, right? It's insane. I put my husband first. I put my child first, which I thought you were supposed to be, to do, to
Yes,
be a good mom. I put
same.
my friends first. I took every phone call that was like, yeah, I'm here for the drama. All right. Yep. I'll bury the body. I was like, when I couldn't even take care of myself. And that analogy on the airplane where you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself
Yes,
first or the baby will die because you can't save them because you're dead. I didn't understand what that meant until I went through it. And like, I am stubborn. So it took me years. And there's childhood trauma too, of
of
why I have
course.
to take care of everyone else. And I mean, I would do things like, even when I was younger, if I had to go to the bathroom, I would just like hold it so that someone could finish their conversation. Like, hello, ladies who've had children, you should not be holding it. Like,
Yeah, just go to the bathroom if you have to go to the bathroom.
and don't jump on the trampoline if you're going to pee a little.
That's hilarious.
Boundaries, though. And it took
Yes.
me a long time to figure it out. And I didn't figure it out until one day I got a suicidal thought. And I had never been someone who would think about suicide. And I'm
Yeah.
driving along and I'm like, wow, I should just crash into that center divider. My husband and daughter would be so much better off without me. Like, I am such a burden because I couldn't take care of myself properly.
Wow.
And I called my husband. I said, look, something's wrong with me. This is not me. He called my mom. We went away to a cabin in the woods. I sat there and I detoxed off of all the medication. I was on Valium 3 times a day, combined with antidepressants, combined
Wow.
with, they said I had a paralyzed stomach. So I had medication that was going to digest my food for me. Like that. And I found out like years later, it was that medication that had suicidal thoughts as like a side effect. I'm like, yeah, probably should have mentioned that, doc.
Yeah.
But
Maybe a
anyway,
little.
so I'm in this cabin in the woods detoxing and I said, that's it, never again. Like I am clawing myself out of this. And I literally had to crawl to the bathroom. I was so sick, like throwing up, shaking. Like I do not recommend it. Anybody, if you're going to detox, do it under a doctor's supervision. But for me, I felt like I was going to die if I didn't do it. So it was like,
Right.
I just made the call. At that point, I signed myself up for a Tony Robbins conference.
Oh my God,
And
I'm a Tony Robbins junkie too.
I love it. And I across the country and I started listening to self-help stuff. Like, I mean, I'd
Yeah.
always been into it, but at this point I said every day, this is what you're going to do. If you can't work, you're going to study. And I studied self-help like my life depended on it because it did. And the
Yes.
doctors couldn't get me better. So I was like, all right, how do I rewire my brain? So I went through a process of 5 years or, of a few more years after that, figuring out how to get better. And that process is what I speak on stages about. Because if you
Wow.
can take that process and do it now, you don't have to burn out. And I promise you will, because even my father, who is a very successful executive, I didn't grow up with money or anything. I mean, he brought himself up by his bootstraps and then made it when I was already an adult, but he took 6 companies public during the dot-com boom.
Oh,
And he
wow.
was CFO, SVP. He worked his butt off and he would come home at 10 o'clock and eat his dinner and we didn't see him. But he suffered later in life. He had to have like multiple surgeries for gut issues, which is what was going on with me, gut issues. So while this
Yes.
was going on, my dad had 6 surgeries. So whether it catches up with you now or you have a stomach of, or later, because like, let's say, you're like, I'm 40, I have a stomach of steel still, it will
Yeah.
catch up to you. And so I'm not trying to fear monger. What I'm trying to say is self-love is more than just saying like, I'll look good today.
It
Self
is. It's
self-love is,
so much deeper.
yeah. And
It's
you don't
so
really
much
know it.
deeper.
You don't really know it if you have any kind of trauma. You don't know it until you have to experience it.
I'm interested in your framework a little bit because I teach a lot on burnout too. And I think it's so meaningful when people like the listeners can learn about burnout from our mistakes, from the severe place, because that's kind of been my motto too, is I don't want to see another woman on the bathroom floor. You
Oh,
know,
girl.
like if I
So
can
good.
prevent, that's like my dream. So what is like something in your framework that you could share that might help a listener stay out of
Yeah.
burnout or
Okay.
take care of themselves, whichever angle you want to take it?
Yeah. So I like to break it down into 3 simple steps. There's the morning, there's what you do during the day, and then there's what you do before bed.
Got it.
So you put things in place to take care of yourself so that you can keep going, so that you can perform at a peak level. My tagline is peak performance minus the burnout.
I loved it. I saw it on your website. I was like, that's my girl.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, you guys out there, you're pro athletes, you're CEOs, you are the cream of the crop. And the ones that are on their way up, you are the cream of the crop too. Just the universe hasn't caught up yet. So to be that, you got to do things. So, for example, in the mornings, every morning I wake up, I do a sauna, an infrared sauna. I bought one. They're a couple grand off of Amazon. I know it's a lot of money, but it's an investment in your health. It's cheaper than all these doctors I went to.
Oh
And I
yeah,
get in the
same.
sauna.
I go to Hot Works just so I can get in the
Yep.
sauna. Yeah.
Yep. I put one in my backyard. I get in that for 20 minutes and I do meditation and what I call the 3 Ps of meditation. This is something that I coined for myself just so I can remember what to do, because you're talking about like 365 days in a row of this. Like, what do you meditate about? So the 3 Ps are past, present, and potential. Potential is your future self. So if I'm feeling like the little girl me is having a hard time, I'll do like a childhood sort of inner child meditation.
Okay.
If I'm feeling anxiety, which I still suffer from, it sucks because I do all of these things and still suffer from it. It's like the brain is the brain, right? So I do maybe anti-anxiety meditation, or if my body hurts, I'll do like a gut healing or whatever hurts. There's something for free on YouTube. And then my most important one is the future self meditation. So that's potential. So we're on past, present, and potential
Love
meditation.
it.
Future self meditations are key for me because, as you guys know that are like pro athletes, pro musicians out there, you have to visualize your success before it happens. And then you just tell the universe this or better. It's manifesting. If you want to be on stage for 20,000 people, you visualize it in the universe, this or better. And so with that future self, you can find things, sometimes they call it quantum jumping. It's really cute. It's nothing woo. It's just you basically go into a meditation, you meet yourself 5 years from now or whatever, 10 years from now, whatever you decide. And then she gives you advice. And she says the one thing that you're like, oh man, okay, I know I need to stop drinking so much. All right. And she tells you, if you do, maybe cut to the weekends, you will get this. Like, she gives you advice.
I
And
love that.
what that is, it's just your subconscious talking to you. It's nothing magical or woo, but I swear I love those because I get to visualize myself on stages and the women that I'm helping, and it makes your dreams real, and the visualization actually makes them come true. So they've done studies on athletes where they've hooked wires up to their heads. I'm sure you've heard of this,
Yes.
Becca. And they tested them running on the treadmill versus running in their mind, laying down. And what's crazy is the parts of the brain that like fire off while you're running also fire off while you're imagining running. And so the theory there is that your brain doesn't know the difference to whether it's happening or whether you think it's happening. And the same goes for the bad stuff. So why not, if we're going to use our imagination and our anxiety, why not use it in a positive way for our future?
I love it.
So that's
I
future self
love it.
meditation. That is one thing you can do every morning because not everybody has a sauna. I get that. Like lay down for 5 minutes and do a raise your vibration meditation. And guys, like Becca, I hated meditation. Okay. Like I have anxiety. You want to tell an anxious person to think about nothing?
Oh my
Like gives me
gosh.
anxiety thinking about it. But over time, the results are insane. I took a class at Yale and it was on the science of happiness. And they taught us that like basically if you do this for 8 weeks straight, you get the benefits for 3 months. Like you could just quit. You could do 8 months and then take 3 off, or
It's
eight weeks and take 3 off, months off.
such an incredible game changer. And just to reinforce what you're saying, like I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher. So that was part of what I did to heal was I just went knee deep in certifications too. I'm like, I studied, but then I was like, I want to be immersed. I need immersion right now and for my body and soul to heal. And meditation was really hard for me too because I'm so high wired. Like, ah. And so I started off meditating. It's a Manas Yahoo song one day, but it's really positive vibe because one of my yoga teacher, although like now I do like meditations with mantras in them and stuff like that, but she was just trying to get all of us like into a steady meditation practice. And she's like, listen, if you're not there yet, just pick a song that has that really high vibration to it and just sit through that. And so that's actually how I started. So I'm glad you said that because there are a lot of people who listen to this. I talk about meditation all the time and they're like, you don't understand. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's hard. But if you can get that, the space and like for me, the benefit of meditation, and I don't know if it was the same for you, Aria, but it was space, energy, and time. Like all of a sudden I had these beautiful benefits. And what I mean by space is like it created space inside me. So I wasn't running at a million miles an hour. I was still able to be my high performance self, but I was able to do it from a place of calm centeredness with clarity. So I was able to make like laser focused decisions. I was clear on my yeses and I was clear on my nos.
Becca, that is so well put and well articulated because that's the thing that high achievers need to understand is that meditation is not woo. Like if you look at the top performers in the world and if you talk to them and ask them about their morning routine, usually there's meditation in it. And I mean,
Yes.
I've been in the business. I know a lot of people that are at that level, if you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
So they're doing it not because they want to in the beginning. They're doing it because they have to. And eventually you crave it. Now I'm like, sweet, I get to meditate. I get to sit there and do nothing. I wrap my hair curlers on and sit in the hot and it does my curling for me. I didn't even curl my hair. This is just the
That's
sauna.
awesome. So you're like, hey, it takes
The sauna. Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty life-changing. And then another thing people can do, which I know it's trending now, but I did buy this ice bath about a year ago. It's like a freezer on its side. And you can just jump in, jump out. And if you don't have access to that, do it in your shower. Turn your shower to cold for like 30 seconds. And then you work your way up to the 2.5 minutes, to the 5 minutes, to where the research is at. But that kind of thing is just, it makes you so laser focused and your mind is sharp. And it gets rid of the inflammation in your body. Like my whole body was inflamed. I found out I had hypothyroidism on top of it. I was making like, even still with all the medication, I'm making like no growth hormone, which means I work out and I'm sore for days. So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to beat this. And I feel I'm like 90% better with these kind of techniques. It's not just what the doctors have given me. It was a lifestyle change. So meditation, cold shower, that's in the morning. Maybe you can journal. You can do past, present, and potential journaling. Talk about your past, talk about your present, talk about your future, which is the potential. And you can manifest your life that way. Or just when you deal with the past, the advice I like to give, especially for women, is that we ruminate. I got to tell like 3 best friends what happened. I'm like, oh, she wronged me.
I say that all the time. I'm like, who can?
I gotta call my sister, gotta call my mom. No. If you find yourself telling the story more than 3 times, that means there's some trauma there. Write it out, rip it up, burn it, whatever you have to do, but let it go because the past really determines who you are right now. So you think it's past you? No, it's present you. And present you determines who future you is going to be. So if present me is stressed out about the past and gets wasted tonight, then future me tomorrow has to deal with the hangover.
Yes.
Don't let your past ruin your future. It's so profound, but also so simple.
I know. Most of the things are like when you finally catch it, you're like, oh, that's what that saying means. So get it.
Yeah. So like the second thing I mentioned was during the day. What are the things you can do during the day? Because life with us high performers, it's like you're putting out fires all day long.
Yes.
Well, that's where breathing comes in. There's so many easy breathing techniques. And I've been teaching them to my artist development and vocal coaching students for years in the music business. Let's say you're going on stage, 20,000 people. How do you calm yourself? Well, breathe in for 4, hold for 6, breathe out for 8. But for everybody at home, it could just be like you're driving and you find yourself stressed out about traffic, or you have a presentation to give, or you're just like, oh, my to-do list. Well, just breathe in and then breathe out for double. You don't have to remember that
Love
whole
it.
hold situation. That's what the Navy uses. In 4, hold 6, out 8. But like regular people, same thing. Like we're not in the Navy, just breathe in and then breathe out for longer. That's it. It's so easy. And do that for 1 minute.
Yeah, conscious breathing
1
will
minute.
change your life. It's funny because I'm actually writing about this stuff now in the book that I was telling you about, but I'm on the chapters where I'm talking about conscious breathing and meditation. And I love like that you said, like doing your car. Where I'm going is people make meditation and breathing complex. I need the right especially women. They're like, well, I need the right vibe. I need my meditation cushion. I need to get my incense. I need maybe I should paint the room, so it feels good. Like,
Nope.
no, like in my most stressful moments, I would lock myself in the bathroom to
Yep.
breathe and meditate. Like,
And
I
hide
don't
from our
care.
kids.
Like, yeah, like, I don't care, like, where it is. I have the ability to take control back and do a few conscious breaths, close my eyes. I can even make it a meditative conscious breathing, but you're right. You can totally shift and give yourself mental clarity, and it doesn't have to be a big commitment.
Yeah. And one thing I forgot to mention that I do every day when I open my eyes, because when I was so sick, every day I'd open my eyes and like start crying, like, oh God, I have to do another day of pain. Now I open my eyes. Well, I don't even open my eyes, but I just think of 3 things I'm grateful for.
I love
That's
it.
it. Just it's morning theta gratitude, I call it, because your body is basically in like a sponge state where it can learn everything. That's what
Yes.
theta means, like a kid. So I think of 3 things I'm grateful for that happened in the last 24 hours.
I just looked down at the time and we're 25 minutes in. I can't even
Oh,
believe it
shoot.
because I feel like I could talk to you forever. What I want to ask you next, it's probably oozing from our conversation, but I want to ask you directly, like, why are you so passionate about your work?
Ever since I was a little girl, the reason I wanted to be a singer was because I knew that I wanted to move people, whether it was to help them laugh or cry or process their emotions. My soul knew that was my life mission, specifically women. And by the time I was 8 years old, I knew that I would be a motivational speaker after my singing career, which is the weirdest thing to know as a kid. But I think my soul knew. And
Yeah.
it's because people need something that's not religion to help them through the day, to help them not only achieve their goals, but end up happy doing it. Because happiness is not some elusive thing that we chase. Happiness begins every day by saying yes to ourselves, by saying yes to the right choice. Even when life is hard and you want to eat all that crappy sugar food and you're like, not today. No, not today, Satan.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Sometimes, yeah, like binge it out, girl. Like 2,000 calories ain't going to kill you, but sometimes you need to just sit down with that ice cream and wine and drink and cry to the movie. But self-love begins with those little things that we treat ourselves every single day, the little promises we keep to ourselves. And I knew since I was a little girl that I wanted to help people. Every job I've done has been in that vein. In the music industry, it's been help them avoid the pitfalls and have a great career. So speaking now that I do that is just another way to help women who are high performers not burn out, because most of them will. There's like
Yes.
a 25% breast cancer rate, or maybe it's even 30. Like something is going to happen to your body. And so take the time now. I just want to encourage you to do that self-love. It's not woo. Self-love is just, love is an action. Have you ever been with a guy where he's like, oh, I love you, baby, so much. And then he's out like not acting like it?
Yeah.
Love
Like,
isn't a feeling. Love isn't the warm fuzzies. Ooh, I love myself. I'm feeling myself. I finally discovered that love is the small little promises we keep to ourselves. So if I can change one person's life in that audience or just talk to one person and help them have the life that they deserve, that's why I do it.
wow. That was so beautifully said. And
Oh,
it
thank
gave me
you.
the goosebumps from head to toe. So, what I want to do now, since we're winding down, I do want to invite the listeners, especially if you do work for a corporation or you're connected to any conferences, if Aria's conversation today moved you, I would highly encourage you to reach out to her and bring her in as part of your program. And with that, Aria, I want to turn it over to you so you can share with the listeners how they can stay engaged with you. And if anyone is interested in booking a keynote, how they could go about doing that.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to book a keynote, it's hello@ariajohnson.com and we'll figure something out. We just have to get it on the schedule. As far as socials go, everyone can reach me at my website, ariajohnson.com, or Instagram, which is Aria Johnson Official, or Facebook, which is Aria Johnson, or LinkedIn, Aria Johnson, or
You're
YouTube,
like,
Aria
Aria
Johnson. You get
Johnson.
it. The only one different is the YouTube, which has official at the end, because a
uh,
little baby stole my name.
oh, man. So, as we wrap up, I'd like you to maybe share an inspirational thought or something that would leave the audience in an empowered state.
I heard you talking about this on another podcast. So, for the sake of being redundant, I think it is the most important quote that I've ever heard. And so I have to repeat it again. And for me, when I changed from asking myself, why is this happening to me, to how is this happening for me, my whole world opened up. I journaled on it, I meditated on it, and I realized that my greatest challenge, my pain, we're talking chronic pain where I felt like I was going to die for years, like I was going to die, and no one knew what was wrong. It was just a slew of diagnoses. So, with all of that being said, ask yourself the question when life gets hard, how is this happening for me? And sometimes in the moment, there is no answer. People die, there are divorces. How is this happening for me? You don't need to answer that right now, but maybe later it's what you can take from it, right? Who have I become because of this? And if it's not a direction you like, you can stop it in its tracks and you can change it and you can become the version of yourself you want to be. It's a choice today, right now. You can make a choice to say, tomorrow I'm going to try a 1-minute meditation. It's not about being a hippie. Like, I'm clearly not a hippie. I may be a little performy, but no, it's about loving yourself. Like, if you had a child, you would feed them when they were hungry. So my advice to you is eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, and go to the dang gym, even when you don't feel like it. Take care of yourself and love yourself.
I'm just going to let that be our closing statement because that was so powerful. Again, you gave me the goosebumps. It's been such a wonderful, motivational, and empowering conversation. Thank you so much, Aria, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Becca Powers, for having me.